on this computer. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the contributor meeting. I'm going to be your host today. I'm Leo. And as usual, let's start with triage and discussions. For the previous week, we had Ishita and Pasha. So, Ishita and Pasha, anything to add from last week?
Last week, only few of the stuff which didn't go in 2.9. I think, missed cherry picking few of them. They had the request for that one had come in, so yeah, nothing other than that caught my eyes.
Cool. Thanks, Ishita. Not sure Pasha's in the call. No, he isn't. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. So let's just select who's going to be doing triage for next week. Any volunteers for primary and secondary for next week in the call?
I can do my best on primary. I'll be traveling a little bit and working on some internal stuff, but I'll cover what I can.
Cool. Thanks, Michael. Any volunteers for secondary? And to be honest, I think we just need to improve this process. I keep saying this over and over.
If there's no one, I could pick it up, but I'll be on leave next week, so till Sunday I can help it out.
Oh yeah, next week is US
Yeah.
holiday. Mm,
Yeah, it might
yeah.
be right just because of that.
Say that again.
It might be a quiet week anyway, just because of holidays.
Right. Okay, so thanks, Ishita.
The third name. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's move on. So we have three topics in the agenda for the day. So first one, C dash. Sorry if I'm
Uh,
not saying your name
no, it's
correctly.
correct. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Siddesh.
okay, cool. So you
Yeah.
want to share the screen? You want me to click and
No, you can click it
okay,
on the PR.
sounds good.
So
So
yeah,
go ahead.
I wanted to bring this to discussion. So this basically uh, adds a change in pruning behavior for sync waves. So how the resources are pruned during sync operation. So this is to address scenarios where deletion of resources need to follow a particular order, basically the reverse order of in which they are created. So I've implemented this change by, like, how it works is, during the sync operation, we identify all the resources which are to be pruned, and then based on their sync values, we do a reordering uh, before applying the pruning. So I just wanted some views on this, reviews on this PR.
Right, I think this was discussed a while
Yeah.
back meeting, right? Yeah. Okay. So Yan was providing some input. Yeah, I think at this point is a matter of getting someone to review this PR. I
Mhm.
quickly looked at it and see that you're changing. It's a GitOps engine PR, and yeah, there's a new logic added here in the sync context. So yeah, I think have you tried this in a local Kubernetes or in your
Yeah, I've tried it, integrating it with Argo CD as well. So I've attached a screen grab of it in the comments.
right, but then when you integrate it with Argo CD, do you have this internal build running somewhere in your company?
No, we don't.
Okay. Yeah, just to make sure if this is already tested in live environments or not.
Okay.
But
No,
that's do you have plans to do so or
no,
you're not able
no, I don't. Also, I wanted, like, this behavior which I've implemented is default. So do we want to have it as a default behavior, or kind of opt-in behavior where resources are pruned in reverse order?
Okay. Do we have a parent ticket for this or not? Related.
I feel like it's fine default behavior, like order for people where order doesn't matter, it shouldn't hurt to go in reverse order. I think that the main thing I want to validate is that this actually resolves a real life use case. Because my understanding of like reverse deletion is that, you know, there are some things that refuse to be deleted until something else is deleted. And like just calling the Kubernetes API requesting a delete in reverse order, I'm not sure will necessarily always resolve those problems, right? Because there may be timing issues where resource B is not deleted soon enough before resource A is deleted, and so the deletion fails on resource A. I just don't know the use cases well enough, and I'd want to see it validated against a live use case.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So
think I'm
this,
also sorry, a quick
yeah,
note
go
there.
ahead, go ahead.
So I'm wondering, like, does the use case involve an expectation that you delete resource A, and then there's a finalizer somewhere that takes care of something else, and that's how things move? Yeah, so I think I had the same comment there.
Right, that seems to be the point of proposal point 2. You wait for deletion. Right, deleting in reverse order doesn't solve anything unless you actually unblock the other thing that needs to be deleted.
Yeah, so the wait for delete is between syncs. So if any resource of that sync level is not deleted, then it will wait before proceeding to the next wave.
Okay, then that does seem to resolve that issue. So if I set my CRD to 0 to 1 and the CR to 0, then my reverse deleting would fail. Right, Christian, I think the idea is that generally like the deletion order is gonna be opposite of what hold on, I got delivery. I gotta step away from the mic for a minute. Be right back.
Okay, so we have a question in the chat by Christian. There's a use case that's probably required to be validated as well. Christian, do you want to add that in as a comment in the PR so we keep track?
Yeah, I'll put it in the PR. I think
Cool.
I think it's like garbage in, garbage out sort of thing. But I'm just kind of thinking of a situation where someone sets the sync wave to the like incorrectly, quote unquote incorrectly, right? And so like if it respects reverse sync waves, sometimes like you might get just like orphan resources. Anyways, I'll explain it better in the PR.
Okay, cool. All right, but thanks, Sidash, to bringing this up. Yeah, I think the work now is on top of that PR and check for comments and address them as they come.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so let's move on. Next topic for today, Nathan, repo server. I think this is related to cache, if I'm correct. Yeah. So you want to share? You want me to do the same as I did before, Nathan?
This is great. Just have you share. So yeah, I think a lot of us are familiar. Oh, sorry. A lot of us are familiar with this issue where multi-source causes a lot of GET requests to the server. There's like at least a couple talks at KubeCon about how that was causing issues for people. And at Adobe, we're having some big issues with it right now. So I'm trying to mitigate that. This does solve it, but I also want, I mean, like obviously anything touching cache has big impact, right? Because it's everything uses that. So definitely wanted to get some feedback on the approach here, and then also just some validation that this is a good way to go. Yeah, I mean, generally what it does is, because what happens is you get a bunch of requests at once and they will all miss the cache because it doesn't exist for all of the coroutines at the same time or different repo servers when you have multiple. They'll all miss the cache, they'll all make a request. So basically the solve here is like a temporary cache-based lock on the first requester. The lock's like a soft lock, so it has like a TTL and like gets removed afterwards if it still exists by the caller. So it's not like you could end up in a deadlock state, but also it could slow things down in like a worst case scenario. So yeah, just wanted to bring it up here. Also kind of curious, same question that last person had, whether we want to like feature flag stuff. There's always the question of like, how many flags do we want versus making sure things are opt-in when they need to be. So
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Having like a infinite amount of feature flags in the code makes the code much more convoluted. So, but it also helps to try out the feature and make sure it's not breaking for everyone. So yeah, I guess this is the decision that we have to make. I briefly looked at the code. I saw that you changed the util cache, right? So I'm not sure if this is just a refactoring or if you're actually changing the logic in here. The only thing is that this is used by many different places in Argo CD code base. And if there is any change here, we need to make sure that this is not impacting existing logic in the different cache, the other sections in the code that also leverages the util cache. Util cache will delegate to the cache client, which in our case is Redis. So is your intention to have this cache persisted in Redis?
yeah, so it just uses the same key
Right.
that the revisions would be using initially. So it checks whether it is a lock, and then if it isn't and we have a hit, then it just returns that because that's valid data. So that's kind of the fix there. I mean,
Okay.
ultimately, I think there could be more of a use case. In fact, I started like playing around with like more generalized cache-based lock, but you know, as is right now, I didn't want to make that big of a change, especially to something as central as cache. So it's just for the revisions here currently. The refactors here, they're mainly in the way that this is getting, like data is getting passed into the interface. So the initial, like the current call that everyone's using, that set item, that doesn't change. That interface is still the same. What I added was a set cache item, which so as I was writing this, I was like, if we add, anytime we add any more options, as is, we have to go update that set item with another variable input. So in the future, anytime anyone adds any kind of option to cache for set item, anywhere that set item is called, we have to go update it. So with that interface change, I'd like to see more of like you pass it as part of the config for the item that you're passing in. So like if you, let's see, I added into the cache item object, like the item there, the option to disable overrides, kind of like the Redis NX option. For the lock, that's important because we want the first locker to get it. Otherwise, everyone tries to get the lock and they do get it. And then the last one thinks it was the locker, but so does everyone else. So we need like a way that only the first one who tries to request it can obtain that lock. So that was my thinking there. Updating a bunch of calls everywhere every time like we want to add options can be a little bit cumbersome, but also it also kind of hides some of those options. So there's always the trade-off there.
Right. So I guess my first ask is adding the VilDoc to explain what you just did. So the next person, because you're exposing this, so this is a public function. So I guess developers will be confused by this, whether or not use this and this. Because before we just had exposed this one, if I remember correctly. So today we just have set item, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So set cache item is a new one. So yeah, I think we need to make it clear what is the responsibility of each one of them. So one thing I discussed with Jan, because I'm working with a totally different part of the code, but also I'm willing to leverage cache. The utility cache that we have defined here. And so discussing that with Jan last week at KubeCon, he suggested me to take a look at two-level cache. I'm not sure if you saw that in the code. So we have a layer in Argo CD code base called two-level cache that first caches in memory, and only if that cache misses, then it goes to Redis. And the reason for having that is because the communication between Argo CD and Redis is there's a lot of traffic between those two pods, and so this was an attempt to reduce that load. So I'm not sure if this is the case, because it seems that you're trying to reduce the communication between repo server and the Git repo. But if that traffic is transferred to the communication between Argo CD and Redis, we also have a different type of problem, but kind of the traffic is still there, right? So not sure if you looked at the two-level cache, or if two-level cache makes sense for this use case or not. This is maybe a suggestion I will give you to investigate.
Yeah, I think I'd like the idea of the two-level cache. Yeah, I can't think of any issues that we run into immediately there. So I think my question would be, so the two-level cache, when I was looking at it, it looks like that's just implemented as basically like a provider for the interface that we provide as this util cache. I assume swapping that, we would probably be changing that for a larger area. I'd have to go look at the code, I think, but yeah, I mean, I definitely think that that's a good idea, because like you said, you're right that this does increase that pod to cache communication. So, and we definitely have issues with that too.
Yeah, the only thing to keep in mind is that we're gonna have duplicated. So let's say we have more replicas than we have, because this is in memory, right? If for your use case you absolutely need to have this cache centralized, and always bring from this central piece like Redis, which is external from the controller, external from everything in Argo CD, then the two-level cache might not be the solution to that. But if your use case allows that, then I think it's good to take a look and try to save those requests between Argo CD and Redis.
Yeah, I'll definitely take a look. I think it'll be fine. Basically, I think what we would do there is like check the in memory, and if that has the revisions there, then we just return it. It would only be on the case where there's nothing in memory, which I assume is how it works anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right. But yeah, thanks for this PR. It requires a thorough review because it touches very key pieces in the project. But yeah, thanks for working on that. Anyone else in the call has any observation to make or suggestion, anything?
clarifying question, which I'll see in the code eventually, but I'm curious. And first of all, you're an absolute legend for tackling this. This was gnarly. So point 3, you said ref only sources were still following the generate manifest path. That makes sense. So the API controller saw a ref only source and still chose to call the repo server to generate manifests. That's obviously silly and wrong. The second part of it is, when that call was made, why was nothing being cached? It's just like we entirely skipped the path that ever would have considered caching to Redis manifest output.
Yeah, so that one was interesting. The manifest portion of that, when it was ref only, there's probably a better way to do this. I just might be not familiar enough with like the way that we have the messages set up. I just have it short circuiting right now, which there was already a short circuit at one point in that path, but it was too far down. We'd already tried to generate the cache and it missed. The problem that I was seeing so that's related to us. So we have two issues here with the cache, or sorry, with the calls to Git. One is there's too many fetch calls. And the other one is there's too many else remote calls. The fetch calls, which is I think the one you're like referencing, what happens is it gets a ref only, tries to generate the manifest, but can't. So there actually is a fix for this. I think it was in the issue that I linked, and that's that if you actually had like add a path for the ref, it fixes it. So it's like currently we have kind of a hack right now where it's like we have I think there's another way you can just do it with like an exclusion, but we have like just empty customized, so the top level that renders nothing, and then just goes into cache as like an empty value. But if you have it ref only right now, that manifest cache never gets generated, or it's not that it doesn't get generated, it gets skipped. We could track that down, so that's fine. We could remove that short circuit and figure out like what's going on there. But also my feeling was if we don't have manifests to generate, we should just skip that generation entirely.
So it saves network call. Yeah, the short circuit's the right way to go. I was mostly just curious about where we went wrong the first time.
Yeah, it'd definitely be interesting to know. I like one of the other issues with like the LSR mode is I found like a couple areas where there was like a call to like a wrapper function and that was supposed to like originally include a cache that just looks like the cache just wasn't passed in. So I like fixed those. That was like just for the LSR mode. But I assume the fetch was probably something similar to that because there's kind of a series of calls to go through to kind of hit that underlying Git utility. So
cool. And on the LS remote thing, do you have any excuse me, experimental data showing that the cache lock, like the timing out cache lock, prevents excessive LS remotes on like super close concurrent requests?
yeah, so I actually set up like a whole local environment for this. I can share like my repo for it. I can't guarantee that the script will work for everyone because I just did it on my local, but basically I just set up like a GOG local, like a Kubernetes cluster with like a GOG Git server and a custom Argo CD image that I was just building from my branch. And yeah, then just had like Prometheus watching like the LS remote and fetch requests. So
Sweet. Okay.
yeah, with the change, it dropped down to just however many repos I had per check. I think I was doing a check every 30 seconds. So it was about 3 a second or 3 every 30 seconds.
My initial feeling is it's probably okay to hard code the timeout and the wait interval. Like this really doesn't feel like something that people should have to manually mess with. I guess if you had a really, really flaky Git LS remote response, you might, I don't know, want to release the lock more quickly. But I think vast majority of the time, the defaults are going to be fine.
Well, yeah, if that sounds good, I think that'd be great, because that'd definitely simplify a lot of that.
The only other note I have just real quick is we've got this like loop with a wait to try to reacquire the lock. Are the primitives like not good enough here where you can just like do a wait for lock to be released, like line imperative? Is the loop necessary, basically, what I'm asking?
So I guess the problem is here is that the lock isn't a local lock, it's a cache lock. So we would need to know when the cache updated rather than like using like a local mutex lock. We could like use a local for, I guess, preventing as many calls to the cache. So that's something, definitely an improvement I could add in there. Because like if you had like a local, like a bunch of local Go routines or something trying to make this call, currently they'd all be trying to make that request the cache. So we could just have one local at a time, holding like a local mutex lock on top of the cache lock. So we could definitely have that in.
Wait, I may be confused. Is the LS remote cache in Redis or in memory?
It's in Redis, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, word. Okay, yeah, I'll mostly just have to read this, but very cool work. Very much appreciated.
All right, thank you, Nathan. Anything else you want to add? Anyone else? All right, cool. Thank you. Moving on. So we have one more topic for today. Anand, are you in the call? Yes, I think you are.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me know if you want to share yourself or if you're okay with me sharing it.
Let me share.
Oh yeah, okay. Great.
A specific section. Yeah. Okay. I have problems. So the system is not allowing. Could
Okay,
you go to the last? Yeah. Sorry for that.
No problem.
So there is a recent comment. Could you go to the last section? There is a suggestion that so the current proposal allows the impersonation account. Yeah, that one 3 weeks ago. At the app project level. So the comment is about the app project being used for restriction and making the service account name to be specified in the application level. So I want to hear opinions whether we should take this path. There is an example in the previous section from Blake on how this will look like. There is a default service account that will be specified and the allowed service account names in the app project. Could you scroll a bit up?
Up.
Yeah. No, in the conversation section, there is a comment from Blake.
Which one? Yeah, he has 3. Yeah, this and this. Is this the one you're referring to?
Can you search for default service account?
Yeah, 3 occurrences with no comments in the lines.
It's from the conversation section.
I'm in the,
Okay.
let's see. Yeah, if the comment was added directly here, then it wouldn't show there. So this, yeah, this is the only default service account.
No, without a space. Let me type that in the chat.
Oh yeah, okay. This one.
Yeah, something like this. Can you scroll down below where there is a default service account name and allowed service accounts? So this will be set in the app project, and the application will specify like what service account to use. So just wanted to hear opinions on what would be the best approach.
In my opinion, okay, so default service account name, allowed service accounts. How do I know which of foobar or bat is going to be used for my particular application?
Yeah, that would be specified in the application destination section. So you specify the target server, the namespace, and along with that, you need to specify the service account to use, whether it's foo or bar.
That does mean, I guess we have to think about, do we think that setting the service account for an application or set of applications is more of an admin e-task or a user e-task? I guess I had been thinking of that more as a thing that you had said in the app project as an admin, but maybe that's not the right way to think about it. You do get the default service account name field, which does mean that if as an admin, I want to just enforce, so I
Yeah.
can't be like that. I think that's probably fine. Maybe as a V1, we consider not adding the service account field to the application itself. We just have this default service account name field, configure it on the project, and then consider the other a wave 2 type feature if it's highly requested. Just for the sake of simplicity.
Okay.
That would
So
be
in that case, allowed service accounts is not required in V1, right?
right. I think using the word default service account name still here like leaves us room to add that later without much confusion. The other thing I would say about this setup is I'm not sure that we should have this configuration in the destinations field because the destinations field is already kind of overloaded and hard to understand, especially when you consider the fact that we have negation patterns. So if I set server not Kubernetes.default.service, how do I determine what that means for the default service account name field? We need a new destination service accounts field that is purely dedicated to assigning service accounts to particular destinations.
So do we need to add a separate section for specifying this, right?
I think that would be preferable just for user experience and like reasoning about it. Since it is a security control, it needs to be very easy to reason about, in my opinion.
Okay.
Right, Blake's, yeah. I think pulling it out into another field makes the most sense. It does mean duplication, like you are going to have places where, okay, now we get namespace in the server, maybe they're globs, maybe they're not in some other field, but I think the duplication is worth it.
Okay, and any thoughts on how we should name it? Something related to impersonation or?
I think that maybe just like destination service accounts might be
Okay.
fine. I'm not sure the most intuitive way to structure that. Like first pass in my mind is, well, maybe you have a list of objects. One key in the object is service account name. And then you have a server and namespace field glob. And as Argo CD loops through that list, the first server and namespace globs to match the destination of a given application, the first server or service account name in that list wins. It's very kind of first pass, just in my mind, way that it might work.
Okay.
Let's see, I can, if you want me to type out the example real quick, I can do that or share and type that.
So this section here is part of the application resource or the app project?
App project.
Okay.
Leah, do you mind if I steal the share for just a second?
Yeah, you can steal it, no problem.
I'm gonna show what I think it would end up looking like. Okay, so something like service or destination service accounts, and then you'd have like server. So let's suppose I just want everything to be the service accounts to be Argo CD by default for all destinations. Like okay. Server local, sure, and I could do namespace star service account Argo CD. And then if the destination, so I don't totally love this because namespace refers to the default namespace of the application, and resources can be deployed to other namespaces. So I'm not sure that even having this namespace field in here makes sense.
Yeah, but we need that to match what is specified in the application, right?
Yeah, that namespace just seems like the wrong way to match. Maybe the better way is like just match labels or annotations on the application resource itself. That way the users can sort of opt themselves into particular service accounts. So we're still in control of, okay, it's our job to make sure that for this pattern, this service account exists for that server or set of servers. But beyond that, it's up to the user to like sort of guide the controller on which service account to actually use according to some match rules. The namespace field, in my opinion, is bad and badly named. Like this always should have been default namespace. Because that's what it is. It just sets the namespace field and resources when it's not already set by the manifest generation.
Okay. Yeah, correct.
It's just not a very good field for targeting service account names, in my opinion.
Got it. Yeah.
It could be seen as match.
But for the service account point of view, the namespace is critical because we are going to look for the namespace. I mean, that particular service account in that namespace.
Sure. I think that
should that be the application's namespace or the destination namespace that is provided in the application?
I think that the application destination namespace, default namespace, is completely disjointed from the namespace where the service account is.
Okay.
I think that this is a fine way to accomplish what you're talking about.
Got it.
Yeah, trying to
So explicitly specify it, right?
Yeah, just explicitly specify it. Theoretic, I mean, I guess the use case you're trying to target is, well, we want this thing to be very self-service. The user should be able to create their own service account in their destination namespace. But but just sort of inferring that it is the same namespace as the destination of the application itself seems a bit not great to me.
Okay.
Hard coding this also doesn't seem good because, as he pointed out, like it could be on any namespace on this massive cluster full of namespaces. Maybe it's like you fall back to the app's default namespace. I don't know. We might need another call separate
Sure.
just to
Okay.
this.
Yeah, I can try to schedule one for discussing this.
Cool.
Thanks for the inputs.
Hit me up.
Michael, do you mind adding this suggestion in the PR?
I'm not sure I'm confident enough in the suggestion yet. I think we need a call first.
Oh yeah, sure. Just so Anand can continue from there, right? So
That's fair.
cool. All right. I guess we're right on time. We don't have any other topic, and let's wrap up for the week. So not sure if we're gonna have this meeting next week as it's US holiday and most of us is in US. But let's see, we'll discuss, and if we're canceling it, we're gonna send a notice. And that's it for this week. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. See you. Bye.